you can draw this in Procreate. During this Procreate tutorial, we are going to create another character illustration. We'll start with the basic construction of the face, we'll create a sketch, and then we will use chalky brushes to create this loose storybook style character. I think this is a nice challenge for you as a frequent watcher of this channel, or if you are new here and you feel intimidated, don't worry, I will guide you through every single step. Just don't forget to share your result once you have reached the end of this tutorial, because I would love to see it. And if you are sharing it on Instagram and if you tag me in the image, not just in the description, then I will be able to find your work and then maybe we will see it in the next video, just like these awesome results from my friends at Patreon. If you want to power up your Procreate skills, then that's the place you need to go, because I have more than 150 tutorials there and they range from beginner levels to more advanced levels. Now for this tutorial, what you need is a canvas of 3500 pixels by 3500 pixels. Set the color profile to sRGB and make sure to get my free brushes if you don't already have them. You can go to freefromflow.com to not just get the brushes but also my free ebook about color theory. So once you have all that, we're ready to get started. We'll start off by sketching out the construction of the face. Now for the brush, I would like to use the 6B pencil, which you can find under sketching, but of course you can use your favorite sketching brush. And for the color, I'll be using a very dark color. You can go for black or a dark gray, doesn't really matter. And the opacity of the brush is at 100% and I have the size set to 50%. And I will start off by creating a circle. Draw a circle, hold your pen in place and then tap one finger on the screen to create a perfectly round circle. Next, we'll make a line through that circle from the left to the right. That will be the line for the eyes. And then we'll make a vertical curved line as well, going downward along the face. And that's the center line. And it's a little bit curved. And it extends a bit here because that's where the jawline will be. So let's make a curved line like this and then upward towards the face, towards that eye line. So a shape like this. Then let's also add a neck. Let's make a line over here. I'm going to make it a bit longer than a neck would be realistically, because this is more of a cartoony depiction of a girl. It's almost more like manga proportions. Then over here we'll have a shoulder, and over here with an arm attached to it. Another line over here and over here. Two lines like this. I'm going to make a curved shape for her dress. Over here we'll make a curve like this, and then a shape like this. So it's a bit bigger than a shoulder would be. These rounded shapes and a little curve over here for the front of her dress. And of course, these are very simplified shapes. The style is more like a storybook illustration style, so it doesn't have to be 100% realistic. Now for the hair, I'd like to give her a very big hairdo with rounded shapes. She has nice curly hair. So just make some wobbles on the outside to quickly sketch out that hair. And her hair will also cover part of her face. Like this. And now that we have got this, let's focus on the facial features. But I want to make this cross on the face, I wanted to make it a bit less prominent. So let's just grab an eraser. Let's go there and let's grab a soft brush, for instance. Under airbrushing, you can grab that eraser. Now the opacity is at 80%, the size at 20. And then let's just gently go over here, over that center area, fading that a little bit. And then let's go back to the brush to start creating those facial features. Now for instance, over here we'll have the nose. You can just make an oval shape like this. And then the eyes will also be big oval shapes, one over here, touching, almost touching that side of the face. And then we have one over here, big oval shape. And you can see that this one appears to be closer to that center line than this one. There's more of a distance here, and that's because the face is turned. This is like a 3/4 view, and in that case you need to draw the eye that is further away, closer to that center line. All right, now let's continue with the mouth. Let's start with the corners, one here and one here underneath those eyes, and then a curved line, curved smile, and an upper lip and a lower lip. And then let's make a line over here. That's the side of the nose going up towards her eyebrow. And it extends a little bit beyond her face. And then we have another one over here. It's a bit, well, it starts a bit to the right of that eye. So a nice curved shape. And then let's make another little oval inside the nose. That's the underside of the nose. And she'll have these nostrils. And of course, she'll also have irises and pupils. So just make a round shape and a round shape inside. And I'd also like to give her these earrings. I'll make 2 of these circles. Now let's go in here, adjust it a little bit. For instance, for the eye, we also need an upper eyelid. Let's make another curve here on the inside of our oval. And here as well, an extra curve. We can tweak the nose a little bit, that curve of the lip. And we can go over that side of the face, make that line a little bit darker again. So we have a nice rough sketch. Here I'll make 2 extra little circles for those earrings. You can have them float here. This is a stylized illustration, stylized piece. Let's connect this line to the nose. So we have a very simple nose here. We can make that smile a bit more curved. Darken these lines a bit. So we have a nice base sketch on which we can build. I always like starting out with a pretty rough sketch and with the construction lines, of course, and then make a more refined sketch on top. Now to do that, we need to go to the layer menu and tap the N and lower the opacity of the sketch. Let's set it to 30%. Then we'll tap the plus for a new layer on top, and on this layer we can create our refined sketch. Now I always like starting with the face, so let's zoom in on that. And let's start with the nose, for instance. I'll make a little line here. Then work on those nostrils, a little shape like this, and one on the other side. And then that curve here. And let's make a little line for that underside of the nose. This top part, that's where the light will be hitting. And for our lines, let's focus on the eyes, for instance. I want a nice refined sketch of the eyes, because later on we'll also make a little bit of line art. Mostly I want to use the chalky brush, the round chalk brush from the treasure chest, but I also want to add some line art, and having a good sketch will really help there. Here we have that underside of the eye. Let's make a little line there, and we'll have some lashes. Let's make them curve outward. And for that upper eyelid, you don't have to follow the entire line, just here at the top. And then let's create that shape for the eyebrow. Looks pretty good already. But in this stage, you can definitely make some adjustments to your sketch. You can try and decide what the best line is to follow. First, that curve of the eyelid. Here you have that upper eyelid, that crease. Don't have to follow that entirely, just this area. Then a line over here for that corner. And here, this corner of the eye. And then we have the iris. Create a nice circle. And a pupil. And of course, again, those eyelashes curving outwards. Just a few. And that eyebrow. And for that mouth, I always like starting with the corners of the mouth. Then that curve of that smile. Then the upper eyelid, not the upper eyelid, the upper lip. And the lower one. Nice full lips. You make it go downward a little bit here. And then let's follow the curve of the jaw. Side of the face, moving up along the cheek. We have the earrings, just simple circles. And then, of course, the rest. Let's just roughly go over there. That area will be quite messy later on, so don't worry too much about that in your sketch. Just make any adjustments if needed. Arms. And of course, the outer edge of the hair. And this also will just be a rough guide. Later we will go in there with our round chalk brush, creating a pretty messy look with rough chalk textures. Now over here, I'd also like to add a little flower in her hair. Let's just make an oval shape here. And then, you know, let's grab the eraser again, erase this part a bit so that it doesn't bother us. A little oval in the center, which will be like that core of the flower. We'll make a little heart shape, rounded shape there. And then just some petals, keeping it very simple. Petal over here and here. Just something like this. Now that we have our refined sketch, we can actually merge these two together by pinching them. And we can lower the opacity, let's say to 30% again, by sliding our slider to the left And then it's time to start coloring. So let's tap the plus for a new layer. And then let's drag it underneath our sketch layer. And then for our first color, we will grab this one over here, second color in the first row, and let's drag it onto our canvas. And next, we will create some different layers for different sections of our illustration, because that will make shading our work easier. First, let's tap the plus in the layer menu. And let's start off with a layer for the face. Now for the brush, I'd like to go to the Treasure Chest brush pack. Remember, you can get it for free if you go to freefromflow.com. And then we'll use the round chalk brush. And for the color, we'll grab this one over here. That's the 6th color in the first row. Now make sure the opacity is set to 100%. Now for the size, you can vary. Let's start with 30%, for instance. And we are just going to follow the outer edge of the face. We're going to fill that layer. Just fill that entire face. You can rotate your canvas to make it easier to follow that outline. And in case you need to erase parts, if you have painted too much, then make sure to tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to that round chalk brush. Because then when you erase, you will keep that textured outer edge. Otherwise, if you use the monoline brush, for instance, for erasing, or that soft brush that we have just used, that will look weird. So just go along the outside, and then you can make your brush bigger, for instance, 70%. And then just go over that inner area. And you can go over that hair part, no worries. The most important part is that jawline, that is nice and tidy. So just fill this, and it's okay if you can still see tiny little gaps. It gives a nice texture. And then we'll put the neck and the arms on a separate layer. The head, this area, it's covering that neck area, so it makes sense to put the layer for the neck underneath the head. So we'll tap layer 2 first, then tap the plus, and then on this layer, we will fill the neck area and the arms. Let's set the brush to, for instance, 40 or 41%. It's not that important that you use the same brush sizes as me here. Just make sure to fill the areas. So just curve along here. And then for the arms, make this nice and tidy. You can go over the shirt or dress area because we will put that on a layer on top of this one. So don't worry about that area, just about the outer edges. Like here for the arm and for the neck. There. And like I said, we'll put the layer for the dress on top of this one. So go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then for the color, we will grab this one over here, second color in the third row. And now we will create that dress, create that outline. Along this edge. And at some points, you might need to make your brush a little bit smaller. To be able to make it tidy enough. Especially here, this area. I'll start with this. Let's fill that area by hand to keep some subtle texture. Then over here, I'll make the brush smaller. I'll go for, well, perhaps 15%. You can also just go in here and then grab that eraser, which is set to the round chalk, and then erase a part. Sometimes that can be easier than trying to paint really tidy. Then for the hair. A lot of the hair is behind the neck and behind the face. So I'd like to make a layer underneath the head and neck area, or head and neck layers. So we'll tap layer 2, then we'll tap the plus. And then on this layer, we'll start with the hair. We'll start off with a pretty light color. This one over here, 8 color in the second row. And then let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 50% maybe. Let's check. We can go even bigger. Let's go for 75. And then let's just fill this area, but I won't go to the outside of my sketch yet, because I also want some loose hairs there. So let's first start by filling in this area, also behind the head, behind that face, the area you can't really see. Fill this as well. And then we can make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's see, maybe 20%. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's nice. And now let's make some looser curls. Use little pressure. And you get that nice chalky texture. Over here as well, I want it to be a bit more transparent, a bit lighter. To make these curved shapes a bit on the outside of the hair shape. So you get that suggestion of these loose curls, playful curls on the outside. And then for the part that's covering the face, we'll go to the face layer, layer 3 here. Then we'll tap that layer and add a layer mask. Now we can paint on this layer mask with black to block parts of that face layer. Now to make sure that you have black, sometimes you might have white selected, you can just double tap here to select pure black. And now we can go over here and get rid of part of that face layer. Make these rounded shapes. And for some loose strands here, I'd like to use a different brush. From the treasure chest, we'll use the fine liner brush, which is, well, a bit more precise. And the opacity is at 100%. Let's set the size to 10%. And then let's just go along some of these areas. You can see that we have a little gap here. We'll fix that later. I'll just make a few of these loose hairs. Just a few extra rounded shapes. Now let's just fix that area by going back to layer 6 with the hair. We can go back to the round chalk brush. And then we can just go over here to cover that. Let's also create the flower. For the flower, we can actually use the layer for the dress. And for the color, we can use the second color in the third row again. And then let's just fill that shape. Follow that sketch. Create those petals. And then for the earrings, I'd also like to create a separate layer for those. Let's tap the plus. And then for the color, let's use this one. First color in the first row. Now let's just go over here, make these rounded shapes. They don't have to be perfect. It's nice if they have a textured outer edge. And we can make this one a little bit bigger. This one as well. And then those little dots there. Then let's go back to the face. Let's go to the face layer here and tap the plus for a new layer on top. And then for our color, we'll grab this one, third color in the second row, and we'll use that for the eyes. So let's just follow the shape. Don't go over the upper eyelid, just this area. And over here as well. And then we'll put the irises on a layer on top of this one. So we'll go to the layer menu, then we'll tap the plus, and then we'll set this layer to clipping mask. We'll tap it, then tap clipping mask, so that whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on those eyes. And then for the color, let's grab this one. First color in the first row. And then let's go here, create that rounded shape. And again, it's okay if you have that nice textured outer edge. And now let's actually shade these a bit. We'll do that by turning on alpha lock on this layer. So we'll tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and now we can paint on the iris without going outside of the iris. First, let's grab a darker color like this one, fourth color in the second row. And let's go over the top area a bit. Very roughly over here as well. Because that top part, it's a bit more in shadow. It's covered by the upper eyelid. We can also go over that lower edge a little bit. Just add some color variation. Then let's switch to an even darker color, the fifth color in the second row, for even more of a shadow here at the top. And over here as well. Using very gentle pressure here. And then for the pupils, I'd like to use this color. The next one, sixth color in the second row. Let's go over here. This color is even darker. And over here. And now we need some highlights. Let's first grab this color, fourth color in the first row. And let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's say 6%. Add a little bit of light here in the bottom area. And then a little highlight here. And here. Also a little bit here. And here as well. Nice sparkles. Perhaps here. Now let's also shade the white of the eye a little bit. Let's go to layer 9. For this layer, we'll also turn on alpha lock. So tap the layer, turn on alpha lock. And then for the color, we'll grab this one, second color in the second row, which is slightly darker than what we already have. And then we'll go over this top area. And over here as well. A bit over the lower area in this corner. Over here as well. Just leave a bit of that light in that center area. Then we'll go even darker. We'll grab this one, first color in the second row. And I'll go over the top area, creating a nice shadow there. Here as well. So you get something like this. All right, now let's drop in some more colors onto the face, but just For a warm-up, let's start with the arms and the neck. Let's tap that layer and then turn on alpha lock, and let's add some shadow. For the shadow, we'll grab this color, the 8 color in the first row. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger, let's say 30%. And let's add a little shadow under the jaw. Using a little pressure. Also some shadow here on this side. Gently fade it towards the bottom. Also want some shadow over here. And on this side of the arm. And over here as well. At the top where that shirt or dress is casting a shadow, and on this side. And let's also grab a lighter color, this one, 5th color in the first row. And let's add a touch of light to the arm here. Let's make the brush a bit bigger actually. Let's go for 50%. Add some light here. And a little bit over here. And some here. I also want to add a touch of yellow. Let's grab this color by tapping and holding your finger in that area. And let's just add a bit of a messy stroke there. And perhaps here as well, touch of yellow. Then let's go even darker. Let's grab this color, 5th color in the second row. Let's add some more shadow here, right underneath that dress and this little edge, and right next to these areas. I also want to add a little bit of light, a little bit of backlight from our bluish surroundings, and to do that, let's grab this color, 2nd color in the first row, and let's go along the edge a little bit here. Adding a little bit of a blue touch. Again, using very little pressure. And also a little bit on the arm. Now, in case some areas are a little bit too rough or you want a softer transition, you can tap and hold the little finger up here to grab the round chalk brush for your smudge tool. And let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 25%. Opacity is at 100. And then you can use that smudge tool to go along areas and soften it. Blend it a bit while still keeping that chalky texture. You can push and pull areas. Don't overdo it. Just a little bit. You can get a nice texture and more control over the colors at the same time. So this was just a little bit of a warm-up. Now we'll move to the face, which is a bit more challenging, of course. So let's go to that layer, layer 3 over here. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock. Now we're going to paint directly on that layer. And let's start by adding some lighter touches with that 5th color in the first row. Now let's grab the brush. And for instance, let's add some light over here on that forehead. We'll add some touches of light on the nose, on the cheeks, and over here on that chin area and upper lip. Some light hitting the face, also those upper eyelids. Now let's switch to the darker color, 9th color in the first row for some shadows. For instance, here below that eyebrow, and here as well, right next to the nose, and here on the left side of the face, underside of the nose, and perhaps over here underneath that hair. And then you can go to that smudge tool again. Let's make the brush a bit bigger, 50%. And then you can use that to soften these transitions. Let's go over the border areas. So don't go like this, smudging everything. You need to be gentle about it. Pushing and pulling the colors. Now let's go even darker. Let's go for this color, 8 color in the first row. Let's grab the brush again. Let's go and zoom in a little bit. Make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's say 20%. And for instance, get a little bit of shadow here and along that nose ridge. Let's also color those eyebrows a little bit. Get a little bit of base in there. A little bit of a dark edge underneath the eyes. I'd like to brush a little bit bigger again, 40%, for some more shadow here. Also a tiny bit underneath the mouth. And then just go back to the smudge tool. Soften the transitions a little bit. Over here as well, just not too much. You don't want it to be too soft. You can blend in the eyebrows a little bit. And then I want to go back to the colors and I want to grab this orange over here, that third color in the third row, to create a highlight here on the nose. Let's make the brush smaller, 20%, and create a highlight over here for that sunlight that is touching the nose. Then let's go back to this color over here, 5th color in the first row, to work on the highlights a bit more here on the upper lip, forehead, and the chin. You can just carve it a bit more. Upper eyelids, they are hit by light. And then for this area, you can grab that color and then you can carve that nose a bit more. Go along that edge, grabbing the local color. And then I want some pinkish tones on the face. For the pinkish tones, let's grab the pink over here. 8 color in the third row. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger, 60%. And with very little pressure, add a little bit of pink to the cheeks. There's a little bit over here. Touch on the forehead. And then for the lips, let's start with this color, 9th color in the first row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller again, 20%. And let's go along that top lip. For lips, when the light is coming from the top, make sure to make the upper lip darker and the lower lip lighter. For that one, we will grab this one. Well, first let's grab this one. 7th color in the first row for a warm touch. And then we'll light it up later. Also add a little bit of this color here at the top. And color these lips. Then grab that lighter color, 10th color in the first row. And add some light here. And of course, you can also add a slight touch of light to the upper lip, just not too much. Then for a little bit of rim light, just like we did with the neck, let's grab this color, 3rd color in the first row. And let's go along the edge of the face, adding that bright light. That really adds an extra touch to this character. Really making her face stand out. Gently go along the edge. Then I want to go even lighter. Let's grab this color, fourth color in the first row. And then go along the edge, making it even brighter. Now let's add some line work. Let's first lower the opacity of the sketch layer. Let's set it to maybe 17%. Then let's make a new layer on top of the others. Let's tap the plus. Then for the brush, we will go back to the fine liner brush, which is also part of the treasure chest brush pack. And then for the color, let's first grab this one, this sixth color in the second row. Let's use that for the eyes. Let's go in here and then follow that edge here, top of the eye. And we can create those eyelashes. First make a line at the top, a little bit of a line here, and then create those lashes. There's these pointy shapes outward. Might be handy to zoom out a little bit every once in a while to be able to see what you're doing. Little line here on the bottom. Now let's also create those eyebrows, make them a little bit darker. Make these short strokes. You can get these little hairs at the top, and then the underside is pretty much straight. Well, not a straight line, but it doesn't have any hair sticking out. Just at the top a little bit. You can color it in, make it stick out a little bit here as it curves a little bit around the face there. And for the other eye, let's do the same. Make a curved line for the upper eyelid. Create those lashes. Creating these curved outward lines. Also a little line here. And a little bit in the corner here. And we'll also create more detailed eyebrows here, hairs sticking upward. And slowly going in this direction, follow that curve. Underside is more smooth. And then just color it in. Now let's switch to this color, fifth color in the second row. We'll use that for this little line, for instance. That curve for the crease. And to make it more subtle, you can also grab the smudge tool. Let's make it a bit smaller, 20%. And then you can blend it in a little bit. Same for the other side, grab the brush, create that curve. And if needed, you can grab the smudge tool, smudge it in a little bit, make it more subtle, and then grab the brush again. I want to make a little line here, very subtle. I'm using little pressure. And then for the nose, little line here on the left side, and one here. Then the nostrils, little shape here, and a slight curve for the underside of the nose, and then another nostril here. Move this one a little bit to the left. And you can grab the smudge tool if you need it to be softer. It can also help to correct some parts and then go over with the brush again. Now for the lips, let's use a more reddish color. Let's grab this one, 9th color in the first row. Let's start with that corner. Then go through the center. And then that other corner here. Also add a little bit of a line to the top. And that under lip. And now let's see what it looks like when we turn off the sketch layer, because you want everything to be nice and readable while the sketch layer is turned off. That's our goal. Now you can see that we can add a bit more of a defined edge here for that lip. I do want to smudge it a little bit with the smudge tool. I don't want it to be too prominent. Back to the brush. Add a nice curve here as well. We can lighten this edge a bit. This one, make that more subtle. And I think we can go back to that dark color here, 6th color in the second row, to make those lower eyelids a bit more prominent, perhaps. Add a bit of a suggestion of lower eyelashes. I'm adding some little bumps. And then let's go back to this layer with the face, and let's also go back to the round chalk brush, and let's add some highlights. Let's grab this color, 3rd color in the second row. I want to add a little bit of a highlight here on the nose, but I do want to make the brush smaller, 10%. Little highlight over here. And I also want to add some highlights to the cheeks. Let's make the brush even smaller, 3%. And let's add some sparkles. Just in some random spots. Maybe make the brush a little bit bigger again, 7%. And I also want to go back to this dark color, 8th color in the first row, and then go along these upper eyelids a bit, over here as well, deepen that shadow a bit. Make the brush a little bit bigger, 20% or maybe 30. Yeah, let's go for 30%. I want to darken this area a bit more. And a little bit more underneath the eye. And a little bit over here. But on this stage, you can really tweak parts of the character. Add more highlights, for instance, with the 5th color in the first row. You can lighten up this area a bit more. You can just go back and forth between colors. And gently build up your illustration. I think we could also go a little bit darker on the eyes, add a bit more shadow. Sometimes it's easier to see once you have painted the rest. Let's go to layer 10, the irises, and let's grab a nice dark color. This one over here, 6th color in the second row. Now let's go over this top area, pushing it back a little bit more over here as well. I think that looks better. Now that we have created the face, let's work on the hair. Let's go to the hair layer. Here it is, layer 6. Let's tap it and turn on alpha lock. Now let's go ahead with some colors. Let's grab this one, for instance, 9th color in the second row. It's a bit of a darker color. Let's make the brush nice and big. Let's go for 90%. And let's just make these rounded shapes, adding some darker tones to the hair. And I'm not going all the way to the left. And I'm leaving some gaps in between so we still see those lighter areas as well. That lighter color. This area can be nice and dark behind the head. And this will give it so much more depth. You're really going to bring this hair to life. Let's also go even darker with the 10th color in the second row. And again, make these rounded motions, adding some darker touches. Also here, rounded motions with little pressure so you'll still see the textures. I also want to add some bluish tones. Let's first grab this one, 4th color in the second row. Let's go on top here. So that's a bit of that light from the surroundings, a little bit of glow also here. And that's influencing that hair. Let's also use, let's see, let's perhaps this color, 3rd color in the first row. I'm not sure, it might be too light. Let's just check it out. I think it's nice. Just a little bit. A little bit over here. And over here. Maybe a bit more here. And here. Next we are going to add some more hair texture, and we will do that with the fine liner brush. So let's go up here, and then let's first grab this light color. Well, it's not really light, but compared to the others, the 8th color in the second row. And with our fine liner, we are going to create some of these semicircles. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger actually. Perhaps 30% is nice. Yeah, that's nice actually. Let's make some semicircles, creating some curly shapes. So you really don't have to give this a lot of thought. Just make some random curved shapes. Let's also grab this color by holding your finger on the screen, a lighter bluish color. For some hairs here. Now let's move to the dark color, this one, 10th color in the second row, and we'll use that for some more of these curls. Just in some random spots. Adding a nice interesting texture. And you can also turn off alpha lock on this layer, so tap it, turn off alpha lock in case you want to add some extra hairs on the outside of the shape. I think that could be nice, adding some darker hairs there. This gives a really playful look. And to easily make some hairs in front of the face, you could just make a layer on top of the others. So go over here and tap the plus, and then you could just go over here, add a few more of these hairs. All right, for now, let's move on to the skirt, the dress and the flower in her hair. Let's tap this layer, turn on alpha lock, and then for the color, let's start with this one. Third color in the third row, and let's go back to the round chalk brush. And then we are going to make some random flowery shapes. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 30%. For instance, let's make a simple, very simple flower shape here. Just make some random shapes. Create a simple pattern on her dress. Also make some shapes like this. There's some dots. And let's also add some extra color on this flower. Of course, you could turn on the sketch again to see how you have sketched the petals. I'm just guessing a little bit here. Creating an open space here with some darker orange underneath. And then let's switch to the light yellow, first color in the third row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 10%, and add some more patterns. Maybe more like groups of dots. And then for the flower, let's add some light on the edges of these petals. A little bit here at the top. I want it to stay very basic. Then let's make a layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus. Then let's tap that new layer and set it to clipping mask. So that whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on either the dress or the flower. And then let's change the layer blending mode. We'll tap the N and set it to multiply. So we can easily add some shadows here. Now for the color, let's start with this one. Third color in the third row. Let's just see what happens. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. 35%. And for instance, let's add some shadow here. I can see that the shadow is turning out to look pretty warm. So that's not the final shadow color I want, but for now it's okay. A little bit of shadow here and along the arm. And you can see that with this multiply layer, you can darken areas without really ruining any of the texture or patterns you have created. So that's very handy when you have created something like this, a nice pattern, but you want to add some shadow on top of it. A little bit of shadow here. But I want some darker shadow. So let's grab a brownish color. Maybe this one, sixth color in the first row. Let's just see if that works. I like that. Add a darker shadow here for that head that is casting a bit of a shadow. Over here we'll have shadow and a little edge here. Some shadow here. You can just deepen it a little bit. Again, you don't have to give it too much thought. This isn't something photorealistic. We're going for a storybook style here. So try to keep it simple and don't overthink it. A little bit more here perhaps. Well, that's a bit too brownish. I'd rather use that orange there, that third color in the third row. Want it to stay warm, but still have a little bit of variation. I like how this looks. Let's also add a little bit of shadow on the flower actually. Let's make the brush smaller, 10%. A little bit more here underneath. Just define the petals a bit. You could actually also just go on top, or for instance go to this layer where we already have some line art. We can grab the fine liner brush and then this dark orange, fourth color in the third row, and we can use that to, well, define that flower a bit. Adding a few little outlines. Just don't overdo it. Keep it simple. You can also switch to the light yellow, first color in the third row, for some highlight edges. Maybe a little bit of texture, some of these lines. Or maybe a little bit over here. I think that looks nice and simple. Now let's work on the earrings. They need a little bit of shading as well. Let's go to layer 8. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock. And then for the color, let's grab this one, fourth color in the second row. And let's go along the outside, but we do need a different brush. Let's go back to the round chalk brush. And then let's go along the outside, adding some of that shadow. Maybe we can make the brush a bit bigger. 20%. Add some of that dark color here as well. Then over here as well. Along the outside and a little shadow here. Also on these smaller ones. Just keeping it simple. Then let's grab this fourth color in the first row for a little highlight. Maybe we need to make the brush a bit smaller again, 10%. Get a highlight here, little one here, and on this one. And we can deepen the shadows even more by adding a multiply layer here. So we'll tap the plus, and just like with the dress, here you can tap the layer and turn on clipping mask, and then change the layer blending mode. Scroll up to multiply, and then for the color, let's grab this one again, fourth color in the second row. And let's go along the outside here, darkening it a bit more here as well. Deepen this one a bit, giving it a bit of a pearl effect. Now finally, before we can call this finished, let's add an interesting background. Let's go to layer 2, our background layer. And first, let's add some more color there. Let's grab this one, for instance. Third color in the first row. And let's make the brush nice and big, 100%. And let's just go over our background, adding some of that bright blue with these rounded motions. I want the area behind her head to be lighter than the rest, so that there's this nice glow behind her. And that's causing that rim light, that nice effect, making her face stand out. So just these rounded motions. I want to go even lighter with the fourth color in the first row. Let's go behind her neck here. Again, still with rounded motions. You can see how this really nicely makes this girl stand out. And you might have also noticed the nice contrast between the colors, between the warm tones of her skin and of her dress, and the cooler tones in the background. These are actually complementary colors. Blues and orange tones are on the opposite sides of the color wheel, and that really makes this pop. So just some light like this. Let's also make the outer edge a bit darker with this first color in the first row. And for the brush, I want to use the spackle brush in this case. Also part of the treasure chest. I have it set to 75% opacity and 100% in size. And let's just go along that outer area, adding some nice texture and also a bit of a darker color. Just here in the top area is enough. And then let's add some very stylized plants, very impressionistic. Let's make a new layer to do that. Let's tap the plus Then for the color, let's grab this one. That's the 7th color in the 3rd row. And for the brush, let's go back to the round chalk brush. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's say 75%. And let's just create some bushy shapes here, right on the outside. Again, I'm using rounded motions. And here on this side as well, as if she is in a garden on a very sunny day. Then let's switch to this color, 6th color in the 3rd row. Let's add a bit more, some more color variation over here as well with these rounded motions. And maybe some little specks. Let's make the brush a bit smaller. 30%. Let's make some of these floating specks as if there are some leaves. Then on a new layer, so first let's go to the layer menu and tap the plus. On a new layer, let's create some flowers. Very simple shapes. Let's start with this color, 2nd color in the 3rd row. And let's make some simple flower shapes. Very basic, just like we did on the dress. Over here as well, try to balance them a little bit. Over here. Let's also add some pink ones with this color, 9th color in the 3rd row. Just for a nice extra colorful touch. And also to match with my nail polish, of course. Then over here, we have a bigger one. And a small one here. And then let's turn on alpha lock on this layer. So tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's add some color variation with this 8th color in the 3rd row. Let's add some darker pink to these centers. Then for the other flowers, let's grab this color, 3rd color in the 3rd row. And some we can just make a bit darker, and for some we can just add a darker core. You can change it up a little bit. You can also grab the lighter color, 1st color in the 3rd row. Add some lighter touches to some of these flowers. And then let's grab the fine liner brush and that darker orange, 4th color in the 3rd row. And just add some of these wigglies in the centers. Just for these yellow flowers. Then we'll go back to layer 15. And we'll also go back to the round chalk brush. And for the color, let's grab this one. 5th color in the 3rd row. And let's use that to create some leafy shapes. Just some darker patches. Just some more variation here. Maybe some bigger leaves. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 10%. We can just add this suggestion of stems. You can also switch back to that lighter green, that 7th color in the 3rd row, and add some lighter stems as well. But you can see that you really don't need a lot to create an interesting background. And let's say you want to tweak something in your illustration. At this stage, you can definitely still do that. For instance, I feel like I might need to change the eyes a little bit. What you could do in that case is identify the layers that you would need to adjust. In this case, that would be these eye layers, but also that line art layer. So first, let's turn off alpha lock on these layers. Tap them, turn off alpha lock, then select all 3 of them. And then you can go to the magic wand and then to liquefy. And while you have it set to push with distortion and momentum set to none, you can adjust parts of that layer or of those layers that you have selected. You can adjust the size of your brush to move bigger areas or smaller areas. And in this case, I'm just adjusting the eyes a little bit. But of course, this also works for other layers. Or if you want to adjust the entire face, then you could also select all of the layers. Or you could merge all the layers and then make adjustments. And while you use this option, while you use the liquefy tool, do make sure that you don't push too much. Make small adjustments. And if you want to see the before and after, you can simply use reset and then undo. Reset and undo with 2 fingers. I'm going to just make the brush a little bit smaller and make this iris a little bit bigger. And then I think I like the way it looks. Let's tap the magic wand and get out of here. So that's the great joy of working digital. Now I hope you've enjoyed the process of creating this sunny storybook girl. I'm looking forward to seeing your results, so do be sure to share it. And if you would like to create another character, then I think you might like this tutorial next. I would like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for the next tutorial.